And we're on. Okay, perfect.
Cool.
So I'm excited. I asked you to do this, or it was your idea to do this video. I was trying to do it independently. And you had the idea to do a 2-year update, or 2.5 years, I think now,
Totally.
on our original making versus creating.
Oh my
Both
God.
of us being in such a different, I couldn't be in a more different place than I was when we first did that. And I love the opportunity to unpack with you what happened, what changed, where we're at, like what's different, because everything's different.
Ditto, man.
Yeah.
It's just like nothing's the same.
Yeah. And I honestly don't even know where to start. There's so much, and I want to be concise.
I've not watched that video since forever, and I don't read anything or do anything with Maker. So that's ancient history. I just don't know. I kind of just live creator now, but I think you've watched it and you have some strong opinions about it.
Yeah.
So why don't we go, like, what your opinions are of what was and where you're at now, and then we'll riff from there, dude. And I'll just barge in whenever. Cool.
I do have strong feelings about it, because when I don't watch those videos all the way through, because honestly, it's really, and you and I have talked about this, it's really hard for me to see myself, the version of that 2 years ago version of me. I was so full of confidence that wasn't earned. I was so sure of myself and the world, and so sure of what I was up to, and it was because I didn't understand where you were coming from. This idea of just being a creator of your life, it sounded more like fantasy than reality. And it was something that I thought at the time, this is Gary's path. This is the path that Gary has chosen. Gary's life is set up in such a way. He's older than me. He's got the connections. He has the freedom to live life as a creator. I don't. I've got kids. I just got divorced. At the time we recorded that first video, I'm literally homeless. I had moved out with whatever furniture and the air mattress that's in the background. That's what I was sleeping on at my buddy's house. My kids were sleeping on a pull-out couch in the room next door when they would come over and stay with me on every other week. And my mentality at that point was, I don't have time to create. I got 2 little kids to take care of. I got a life to start over again. I got a business to run. I got a second business that's failing. I got to save that thing. Like, this isn't time to be Pollyanna and to make up fantasies about, I just invent what I want and then it just shows up on my doorstep. I thought, that's really cool when I've got a few $100,000 in the bank and can take some time off, then I'll relax into creating. I thought it was a really fun idea, but not one that applied to me. That the way I had to make it in the world was to be a maker, to follow the rules, to grind, to push, to work hard. And if I did enough of that, I could get what I needed. And maybe then I'd be able to back off and relax and look at life from the standpoint of someone who creates their life, not someone who tries to manufacture and force their life into being.
Yeah, into submission, it sounds like, man. Yeah, beat it into submission.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's so funny because back then, I didn't even think any of that. I just thought, yeah, this is my path and this is what I'm exploring. And I thought, man, Dave is the guy. He's like Mark Lemonis, the prophet, that guy. Right. He sees a problem, man, he just tackles that problem and he will be able to see the angles and then he will make things happen. I was even going to say create things, but I don't want to offend you because I had the idea that you were so bent on that you're a maker. And I'm thinking, man, you were a creator and you just didn't know it back then. So you had this idea, but man, that guy who took the time to go in reverse, like leave certain situations that weren't working for you, to be on that little bed, to see life and take care of your kids. I think you're a creator all the time. You just mislabeled yourself.
Yeah. I wasn't ready to.
So I would love.
I didn't understand. I didn't know that I was strong enough. I didn't know that I had the ability. if I'd known. And now with the insight I have looking back, I think you're right. I had been creating, I continued to create, but yeah, I didn't realize that's what I was doing. And I was scared to fully accept that because it felt to me like such a loss of control. And I already felt so out of control with not having a permanent place to live, not having a marriage that had just fallen apart, having two little kids that I had no idea how to parent because I'd never parented on my own before. And even when I was married, I didn't really do the parenting. I felt so lost that I thought the only way to make this work is I've just got to keep making and producing as fast as I can to get this going. I just had to run on that hamster wheel as fast as I could to make it go. And it kept me alive for a bit. And then even the making with all my energy and all my skill wasn't enough. And I think that's kind of what broke me. It was our first year together. We were talking in, I don't know, January, February, or March of 2019. And I was in a really tough spot. And I finally just couldn't make fast enough. Everything I was trying was just not working. And I don't know if you remember that, but I'd gone 3 months without a client. I wasn't sure how I was going to pay the rent. I wasn't sure how I was going to take care of my kids. I wasn't sure how I was going to afford to pay my alimony and child support. Like, it just wasn't working. And I was pulling everything out that I knew how to do in terms of sales and coaching enrollment, and that wasn't working. And I was just lost and completely at the bottom.
Yeah, because you were really saying, I'm going to try this creating. Okay, finally, I'm going to try this stuff. And then you're kind of putting the making aside.
Yeah.
So the making wasn't working, the creating wasn't working, and you were left holding the bag and it was empty. I remember that.
Yeah.
It was gut wrenching. It was hard. That was a hard time for you. Where did the shift come?
It came from I felt like I was backed into a corner so badly, and none of my tools were working. There wasn't anything left to do. I felt like I've tried everything. I can't make any faster. So my options are give up on this life that I've dreamed I would have for a decade and go back and find a crappy job somewhere that will pay the bills and will drain my soul, but allow me to at least provide for my children. And because of how I'm wired, that wasn't an option. And so I looked at that and said, that's in some ways worse than dying for me. I'd prefer death over living not a life. And so the other option I had was to finally, and we talked about this today, to finally surrender to just being a creator of life, and to really, I hadn't really given myself over to that until I got pushed to do it. And once I was, then it was like stepping off the edge of a cliff and not knowing if I had a chute or not. Like, I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm just going to step into this. I'm going to step off this edge from everything familiar and just let myself go into free fall and see what happens, because I can already see the end of the road for the life I'm living currently, and it doesn't end well. And so I'm going to step off, and I might end up in the same space, but at least I have the opportunity for something unexpected to come in and to happen. Yeah.
Do you remember what happened when you arrived in Tokyo? You remember what happened? Like, what happened? I'm getting these phone calls, and you're getting on a train and you go somewhere, and then the train comes back, and that was kind of you in the making, right?
Yes.
And then how did you finally get to your
I got off a plane. We're doing 10 days in Tokyo together, you and me. I get off the plane. You've given me instructions on how to get to the hotel, what train ticket to buy. Everything's in Japanese. I speak no Japanese, so I'm just kind of trying to navigate this. And speaking to the airport attendants were so helpful, but there's that big language barrier. So I figured out how to buy the ticket I needed to buy. I got that. And then I knew I had to go downstairs and get on this specific train, except in all the doing, I hadn't slowed down enough to think, what do I want to create here? And then once I was clear on what I was creating, I could have come up with a plan. I didn't do that. I just knew, get to hotel. And I was just taking it one step at a time, but it was really tight. Like, I was so tight in how it had to look. And I was I was so stuck in that. So I ended up getting on a train at the right station, but it was going the wrong direction. And because I had outsourced everything to you and to the hotel and everything, I hadn't really owned it. I hadn't made my own plan for how to get there. I ended up on that train. I think it took me, the subway ride technically was 20 minutes from the airport to the hotel, including walking. I ended up texting you and calling you, and we were going back and forth. It took me 4 hours in total, because I took one train in the wrong direction for a long ways, jumped off, got lost trying to find my next one, another train wrong, eventually ended up back at the airport. So now I'm just back to square one. And from there, I was able to get on a series of trains that got me close enough so I could get a cab to get to the hotel. At the end of that 10 days going back, I got on one train, straight to the airport, got off, got on my plane, came home. It was a completely different experience.
If that is not a metaphor for making versus creating, so how many of us are, yeah, I got to get on a train. This seems the right train. I'm going to get on it. I'm going to go. And then it's not there. And it's the slowing down of creating that's so powerful. Because I remember after our time together, we just, man, what did we do? We just said, today we're going to do this and we're going to see what shows up. We're going to create with what shows up, create with what shows up. Today we do this. Oh, that happened. Well, today that's, we were supposed to go to Kyoto, I believe, or Nara to see the Buddha. And it was raining and it was cold. And we're like, we're not doing that. We're going to do something else. And then we met my crazy friend Daniel, and we're up until who knows what hour. And what we created with that was off the charts.
This gives me chills thinking about it. But that's where I think that's what I was stepping into, is you were demonstrating for me over and over again how to decide what you want from life and then take whatever life gave you, not even caring what showed up. We knew we wanted this 10 days in Japan to be something really special and to help me break through some things and get some insights. And we had a plan, a making plan of, on day one, we're doing this, day two, we're doing this. And it was very structured. And that plan, I'm sure if everything had worked out, would have been really good. But like Chandler said, and I'm seeing this differently now, Steve Chandler, someone who we both worked with, said one time in one of his lectures that life will always go better than planned unless you stick to the plan. And that was what I wasn't reading there was how much of he was speaking about being a creator of your life. So yeah, we wanted to go see the Buddha. We wanted to do all that. It didn't work out. We ended up running into Daniel, had an amazing night where from the outside, it looks like we're eating and drinking and having a great time. And really what's happening is I'm watching how you're able to take any situation, no matter what as life has brought you, and say, okay, goal is still the same. We still want to have this experience. We still want to provide this for Dave. And you took all of it and you just grabbed it all and said, these aren't the parts I thought I would have, but let's build it anyway. And you built an amazing experience out of what would have looked like to anybody else a real pain in the ass for trying to make this work. And
I love that.
And that, I think, is just that for me now, my understanding of it is that's the essence of creation, is I take whatever comes and I use it to build whatever I want.
You live it, you step into it. So there's nothing, so whoever is watching this, there's nothing wrong with the plan. I always have a skeleton of something. Like I got some framework, but within the framework isn't the thing. It's like the map isn't the terrain. It's like I got a map, and I could have an idea I'm doing this, but as I get to a place, who knows what else will show up. So I'm always seeing where I'm at. What do I want to create? What's next? What's new? What's going on? I call it 100% material to work with. I call it, man, whatever life offers me, I choose creation from surrender, acceptance, and allowance. It doesn't mean I'm a doormat and it's just, okay, that's fine. It's like, oh, this happened. I'll be moved and shaken a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. And so what? Now what am I going to do with this? And in this creation, what am I going to do with this? What am I going to do with that? Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Man, I can create myself. I can create you. I create my wife. I create how I see the world. And this creation, and this is where I've gone from just, musing about it to, Actually, I create myself every day.
Yeah.
I live in the mystery. I create from the unknown. I'm forever at play. This is what we really have an affinity with each other. We're always at play.
Yeah.
Nothing's too serious, even when it's serious, but
Yeah.
we can work with it. We can play with it. We can just take it and put our spin on it, put our stamp on it and say, yeah, life, no worries. But what am I going to create today
Yeah.
with what you've given me? So I create from surrender, acceptance, and allowance.
Yeah.
Whatever life offers me, it's like, great. That gives you so much energy because there's nothing really that you're not accepting. You're accepting everything. You
Yeah.
work with it. And then that other part, it's not Pollyannish. It's like, this is happening. What do I need to do?
Yeah. It's not Pollyanna
Right?
because we're taking ownership of it and taking what
Mm.
has shown up and slowing down and looking at it. And then just, I think part of it's just deciding I'm a creator. I create with whatever's here. It doesn't matter what shows up. All of it can be used to move me where I want to go. It doesn't
So
matter
it's
what it
really
looks like
funny.
from the outside.
Oh, at all.
Yeah.
And something that everyone can see, that office you created, you built it, you
Yeah.
created it. The house you live in, you
Yeah.
created it. The life you have now, the man you are now. So
Yeah.
everything in that slowing down, it's like after the 10 days and you just got on one train and you go, this is what you do. And
Yeah.
what I'm amazed at, and I love the guy back then in the videos we did, but for you, you're constantly reflecting on what's going on in here and how is that relating to what's happening out there.
Yeah.
And you're unafraid to take a look at your ownership, your responsibility, your creations, good or bad, and
Yeah.
then from that place, choose different, choose
Yeah.
different from there. And then you've created this beautiful life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my favorite, do we have time to tell a story about that? I know you gotta,
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
So one, I think one of my favorite concrete examples of me stepping into this creator way of being is when we were on the phone, we were doing a coaching call. At the time, I'd moved out from my old buddy's house. I'd gotten a 1-bedroom condo. My mom owned it. She was giving me a break on rent because I was just I think my alimony and spousal support payment was child support was over $3,000 a month that I'm paying out to my ex. I was burning through savings. I was burning through all my retirement had all been used up paying this thing. My daughter is at that time sleeping in a walk-in closet upstairs in a loft. She couldn't even stand up and it had enough room for a mattress. And then my son didn't have a bedroom. We just put a mattress on the floor and he was sleeping up in this loft. So my kids didn't have rooms. I'm living in the 1-bedroom. We're all sharing one bathroom. Like it just wasn't a life. It wasn't what I wanted to provide for my children. And you and I were on the phone and I said, Gary, I gotta buy a house. I've got to buy a house. And you said, great, let's buy a house. And I told you I don't have my credit's shot. I just finished losing a franchise. Like I've settled a bunch of debt, but my credit took a huge hit. There's no way I'm getting a loan for a home, especially in Bend where the real estate market is. I'm looking at minimum $400,000 to get a place. Like, and that's not even in the good part of town. That's in like the outskirts where they're just starting to build into. And I had no money. I had no way of doing this. And you just said to me, let's just look at what's here and let's create this home for you. And when I was able to relax into letting go of what I thought was the reality and how I had viewed it, which is I have to grind, I have to save, I have to live smaller, and I have to just keep putting money away until I have enough for a down payment. And maybe eventually I'll be able to move years from now. But shit, my kids are going to be old by then. Like I'm going to miss the window where this is the most important thing to do. And you didn't see it that way. You said you didn't even know how we would do it. You just knew that if we stepped into creation, we could do this. And I think it was within a week, I had the finances lined up. I had figured it out. I was doing things that my financial advisor was telling me anyone would tell me is stupid. I'm selling investment property at a time when the market looks like it's rising. I'm going to sell before the market rises. Good profit producing investments to put all that money into a home. So we did that. I found lenders that weren't banks to loan me money. I have 2 separate mortgages with 2 different people. I sold an investment property and cashed out. All that money from that was enough to be a down payment here. So I moved from a 1-bedroom condo to this 5-bedroom home where, yeah, one of my things was I knew in my next house I wanted to have a home office. This house had this crappy, like this was a build out for a formal dining room. None of the white trim that you see was there. And I said, I'm never going to use this formal dining room. I'm going to create an office here. And it's not done yet, but I've ended up creating an office that's better than anything I had ever thought I would have. And I have a bedroom for my daughter. I've got a bedroom for my son. I moved in with my girlfriend and her kids. Like, we just created this from whole cloth. I should not have been able to do it looking at traditionally how people buy homes. It wouldn't make sense. And because you and me together, you were able to help me see how to create this in a way that was outside of the bounds. Now I live in a home that is not only is it the perfect house for me, but because the real estate market was so primed to go nuts, I've actually, in 8 months, I have $60,000 in equity in this place. Like, not only did I not lose money by selling the investment property, I have more money now in this home than I ever would have with my rental. Like, it ended up being, which we didn't predict and I didn't even hope for or want, that wasn't part of the plan. I've ended up ahead by making this happen. Just keep creating the next thing. And I loved that we sat there in a 1-hour phone call and went from me in a 1-bedroom rented condo to a 5-bedroom house that I own with no means at the time of doing it, no idea how we were going to do it. And it was that surrender I was finally able to accept on my end of surrendering into this process. And then you and me looking at the tools and what pieces were there and how could we put it together. And we did. And now I've moved in here just before COVID, which is perfect. I got a beautiful place for my kids to live on quarantine, a beautiful place for them to do their homeschooling at, because we're not back in school yet. Like, it couldn't be more perfect. And it was created from nothing. I didn't know how we were going to do it. It was just surrendering into that. And it's been incredible. Yeah.
Creation.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Creation, the next chapter. I love it.
Yeah.
Let's do more of these. Let's do more of these.
Yeah, there's so much more. There's so many more examples.
Oh man, let's just riff some more. Let's let people see what creation is like.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't say that I've ever been happier or more fulfilled. And it's not from the outside stuff that's happening. It's the creation every day of who I am, who my wife is, who my kids are.
Yeah.
I love my wife. I love my son. I love my daughter with all my might. I lay down my life for them. And if I forget that, I just go back to doing my job. I love my wife. I love my son. I love my daughter. I lay my life down for them. And in doing that, I just live this life of surrender. That's it.
Yeah. And everything
awesome,
we could want
Dave.
just flows in when we do that. Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gary.
How's
Appreciate
that?
this.
Sounds good.
Really good.
Oh, it was so good to spend time with you and just to relive some of our memories that I haven't really thought of. And I just got to acknowledge you for even back then when you thought you were a maker, you were creating and you were creating and you were creating. And just the things that you've created right now, physically and spiritually, emotionally, psychically, just your life is just beyond compare. And I don't know very many more people who are more resilient and loving and powerful than you. Seriously, in awe of everything you've done. So yeah, from those unwatchable videos, I think they were great, especially you. I'm so, but you were great, to this powerful powerhouse in front of me. Two dudes talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, dude.
Okay.
No
we'll
worries.
talk real soon. Okay. Bye.
Bye.